Yo, what's poppin', man?
Cassius, what's going on?
Man, I just
Man,
got
good to
up
have
not
you here,
that long
man.
ago, bro. Look, my hair is all messed up.
Really?
I'm like, gotta change the camera
I
frame
was I
here.
was thinking about that. That's kind of early for where you are,
Well,
huh?
I've been up. I have my Friday call. I got my alpha group, my private alpha group on Friday mornings. Not my private Discord group, but just like my group of guys who we share a game and everything like that. And I was tapped into Randy Hipper's show. I got some news to make about that as well. But thanks for having me on, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things I wanted to start with is I love hearing people's crypto origin story. So, well, I should introduce you first. So you are both a rapper and a crypto influencer, and you've had some pretty big appearances at some of these crypto conferences, huh?
Oh yeah, I've done. I performed at a lot of them. Performed at the Influencer Awards. Won an Influencer Award. It's
Mhm.
behind me on the desk there. Look, it's a belt, a championship belt. But yeah, I've been in crypto since really not until 2021. I was in TradFi before that, stocks, trading, stuff like that. And yeah, I've had some pretty big music videos that got me on CNBC and stuff. This is before crypto actually, about SPACs. And then
Oh
also
wow.
once I found Bitcoin and stuff, there was no looking back. So went to the 2021 Bitcoin conference. There wasn't one in 2020. And man, it's just been no
Mhm.
looking back. Met so many people there. When I had that first song go viral, and it was early February 2021, everyone was like, "You should make an NFT." And I said, "What the hell is an NFT?" You know what I'm saying? And so finally, I had someone explain. Like I had heard of Bitcoin,
Mhm.
but someone explained to me what blockchain was, and then I was like, "Oh, you had me at hello." Like I just wish I had known about this so long ago. Which is why my passion, if you will, is to try to bring awareness to this as much as possible because there's so many people like no one in my family, no one in my city, nobody anywhere around me had ever even mentioned like what blockchain is. And so I'm like, now I got to tell as many people as I can, be as loud of voices as I can, because now people can't say they never heard of it. You know what I mean? Like that's not why they didn't get in. They
Mhm.
didn't get in for a different reason other than blind ignorance. So that's really what my passion
Oh
is
yeah.
to try to spread awareness to this so that way, at least there's an opportunity out there.
Yeah. Well, when you were coming in, so that would 2021 is kind of when things were popping off a little bit, and how did you deal with the bear market that typically follows that?
Oh man. So the bear market, so I was trading hardcore like stocks, right? When I got into crypto, then I
Mhm.
started, especially after the song kind of blew up and stuff. I didn't even have a lot of followers on my YouTube channel and like that. And I've been making music for a long time, but I kind of just rebranded, came out and everything came back to music. And then the pandemic hit. And so I kind of had put music on hold again. And then after, but I'm an artist, man. I'm a live artist, I'm a die artist. It's just who I am. And I'm always
Mhm.
been a reality type of rapper. So like I'm talking about whatever's going on in my real life. And so of course you're at home trading and shit all day. It only makes sense that that's what I was going to write about. And so, and I'm an in real
Mhm.
life type of guy too. I was never really an internet type of person. So I wasn't really on Twitter or anything like that until I started learning about trading. So what happened was when I first started doing trading, that song blew up. I mean, I kind of figured it would. I kind of planned it perfectly. If you guys haven't seen SPAC Dream, you should look for it on my YouTube channel. But, I got on CNBC, Wall Street, cover of the Wall Street Journal and stuff like that. And, but I really do, I was really into like, every day, all day long, in finance. And so when it was February, it was the day after the Super Bowl, when CNBC played my music video on TV, that's everything popped off. I was like, okay, I want to lean into the music side of things. So I started, searching crypto projects, and I started becoming more of a long-term investor, right? And I was holding and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
this is February. So then, Bitcoin pumped one more all-time high before we had, the summertime lulls, and again back to all-time high again, August and November. At that time period, I'd say altcoins pumped really hard. So that was when I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I was already a believer, but that's when I was became more of a long-term investor. Now, unfortunately, to answer your question about the bear market, I did have a lot of money in
Mhm.
Celsius. So I was happy to see Alex McKinsey get sentenced to jail, but to prison. But
Yeah.
but anyways, that kind of hurt, you know what I mean? Because I was being a long-term investor. I
Mhm.
had parked a lot of my cryptos and stuff, and even some stable coins I was going to use to buy the dip type of stuff. So that kind of hurt. But
Mhm.
then I got back to my roots as far as like just being a trader. So now what I'm doing is, of course, I still have my long-term bags. I never sold any Algorand, that's for sure. So I have my
Nice.
Algorand bags and my high conviction altcoins as well as some Bitcoin. But now I'm doing a
Mhm.
lot of teaching leverage trading, high level leverage trading on Fimex, or even prop firm trading on breakout prop. So that's what I'm really teaching now, kind of laser focused on that. And then of course I still make music, and so now I have my Sunday show where I drop a weekly recap rap every week. So tune in 2 days on Sunday at noon Pacific time. I'm gonna be giving a shout out to everybody in my private Discord, but also in the wrap, I tell you what happened during the week, and then we go over the charts. We look at our indicators, and we see, I do a lot of short term
Mhm.
trading. I mean, we can always do long term trading. Short term trading is more challenging in some respects, but like leverage means that you can have a larger size position with only a little bit amount of your own risk. And so you want to learn how to do that appropriately. And that's what I teach on my channel largely now.
Yeah, it's cool. I like asking that because I mean my crypto origin goes back to like 2017, and I started seeing like the yearly returns broken down on Bitcoin. I was like, well, that just makes sense. It just keeps going up. And I was looking at, it was funny because I was looking at Bitcoin like way back in the day when it was, I remember looking at it when it was, several Bitcoin were less than $1, right? And thinking like, well, that's interesting. And then I saw it go up, and I thought, then I saw it go up to where, Bitcoin is worth like a few dollars a piece. And I thought, that's probably the end of that. And it's just going to come back down. And then next time it was $100 some. I'm like, huh. And so finally 2017, I'm like, all right. And I didn't know anything about the cycles. I didn't know anything about that. So I just thought, all right, I should probably just start buying this. And it's 2017 was right before it popped off. So like that was like summer 2017. And then the end of 2017, it popped off, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. All of a sudden I have, 10 times my money. I'm like, all right, I'm taking this off and calling it a win. And then I just like, man, I'll just forget about that crypto stuff.
you forgot about it after that win, huh? It was like wham, bam, thank you, bam, huh?
And then a while back, I thought, oh, maybe I should get into this again. And then I just did the same thing in 2021, where it popped off again, and took some profits, and that's when I started. 2021 is kind of when I started making content. So I've been around, I've been around in crypto since like 2017. I've been invested, but it wasn't until 2021 that I started making content. And then I really started learning about it. And so that's kind of my origin story. And I think when you come into crypto can often kind of determine how your outlook is a little bit toward it.
Oh,
I think.
absolutely.
Or at least
because it's such a volatile asset class that, like a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth that they got in at the top, right? I mean, understandably so, right? And even, I mean, listen, we're on here because we like Algorand, right? So even like Algorand, we should tell our Algorand origin stories is what we should. Can I say shout out to the chat though? I see you guys out there, 6A and Doug and some other folks. So appreciate you guys for tapping in here. I mean, it's the first time I'm a guest on this show. We've been following each other a long time on Twitter and supporting each other. So shout out to the Algo fam for sure. So thanks for having me on. But tell me your Algorand origin story, and then I'll tell you mine.
Oh, totally. And yeah, by the way, shout out to Shark HP in the chat. Appreciate you being here. Marcin is here. Welcome to the show. And yeah, 6 a.m. Doug, is it my guy Cassius Cuvey? I like it. Yeah, and guys, definitely give this guy a subscription. Go check out his channel. I watched some of it this week. It's good stuff. So, and yeah, well, like I said, we've been Twitter fans for a while. Yeah, Algorand, it's super interesting because I was I'm kind of a yield guy. Like I really like yield more than I don't do a lot of trading and stuff like that. I do long-term holds and then I look for yield. And it's kind of funny because it started with, I had a bunch of money in Tezos, which had yield on Coinbase. Mm-hmm. And then this thing called Algorand popped up and the yield was better. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll check that out. So then I was just, I was farming some yield on Coinbase from Algorand. Just like it was just staking. I didn't really know that at the time. And then I learned that Coinbase, like all of a sudden they cut it off. So there was they weren't going to do staking anymore. But I learned that if I held it in the wallet, not only would I be able to earn yield, but I actually get a little more. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to learn how to get an Algorand wallet. So I got my own. It was my algo at the time, which, RIP my algo, because that was bad. And then I remember when for some reason, I just happened to see the day that Yieldly launched, I saw a story about it. And I was like, hey, I got Algorand. I got to check this out. All right. So Yieldly. Then I got into the whole farming LPs. And then I started questioning some of it because I'm like, well, hold on a second. Because if the asset, because you'd see some of these LPs with these really obscure ASAs and they'd have really high APR, like, in the thousands. Right. And I started to suspect, I'm like, wait a minute, am I losing more in the token going down than I am in the yield? And it turned out, yeah, that's really possible. So I did a series of experiments. Yeah. Unfortunately, most of them are lost to this platform that had popped up a while back called NifGen. I made those like an exclusive on that platform and that just disappeared. So, it's an egg on my face, I guess. Oh, well, and I found out
we all had some sort of egg on our face in the bear market. So, if it wasn't one thing, it was another. If you were in, something happened. So, you beat yourself up. I mean, we all took shots on that one. That's for sure.
No, for sure. Yeah, so I found out I did the experiment. I tried 3 different yield farms and I tracked them meticulously for like, 8 months. And I learned, yeah, you definitely have to be careful about what coins you're selecting. So my principle is I always like to have a stable coin with whatever coin it is. Like I like USDC Algorand. Right now it's T Algo USDC because of it's part of the liquid staking on Tiny Man, um, but yeah, then I just got more and more into Algorand, and the main thing is because when I tried platforms, because like I said, I like yield, so the platforms actually work, which is I can't always say on other platforms
Right.
I've tried out, they just don't always work.
The chain works. Give the mother jerks a heart attack. Yeah, exactly. That's what I always say.
Mhm.
And so if you guys don't know, I made the song with AJ Writes Crypto called Just Pay Me an Algo. Called Pay Me in dot Algo. Pay Me is spelled Pay Me in dot Algo, which is the NFTs, which he was talking about earlier. I own that
Right.
the NFT. I own a bunch of NFTs. Pay Me in dot Algo is an NFT. And so that's the song, and I talk about it. But I got another funny one. Okay, I gotta say, because you mentioned Yieldly. I had the CEO of Yieldly
Yeah.
on my show. So if you guys don't know, go back in 2022 on my YouTube channel. I had a show called Popping Crypto with Cassius Cuvée. So I went to the first, it wasn't the first crypto conference. I guess it was the first altcoin conference I ever went to, was Decipher in Miami in 2021, right? So this is right before Art Basel
Oh,
started,
yeah.
right? So rewind real quick. It was at the Bitcoin conference. I met my man Crypto Nick, and he was the first person to tell me about Algorand. In fact, it wasn't until we had like a visual video meeting, like after I got back home. And basically, he was like, Silvio McCally's a genius. Who the hell is Silvio McCally? And that's when he started telling me about it. And then like someone in your chat just said, like, once I used Algorand and I, got sick of
Mhm.
ETH and everything else, the gas fees and failed transactions, I was like, what are we doing here? And I'm like, this has got to be the future, right? First of all, it's cheap, fast, cheap, and easy is just another part of that. CK, and I ain't even talking market cap, so I was like, it's just too easy. You don't go back. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, after using it was really when you're like locked in, but also learning about Silvio and, inventor of $0 proofs, all that stuff. But so at Decipher in 2021, I met, I was in the back or whatever, talking to people and whatnot. And I met Seb Quinn, the founder, CEO of Yieldly. And so he was one of the first guests on my show, Popping Crypto. So I have a rap about Yieldly Finance. I don't know if you want to pull it up now, or people can go check my YouTube channel, but I had a lot of bangers on that show. So what I would do on Popping Crypto, I'd interview founders and CEOs of Web3 projects. Before I do the interview, I had like a DJ, my homeboy, DJ Lex was back there cutting the record. And then he'd be like, get Yieldly Finance. And then I would go and do the rap, right? Live form. And then we do the interview. So I actually have a rap about Yieldly because I was all in Yieldly, this crazy APYs you're talking about. And then, it didn't take long before you realize, when the bear market comes and you're losing more in token value, you know what I'm saying? So, but I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of it was experimental. I didn't just experiment with Algorand. I'm one of those guys who I experiment. I probably had 100 cryptos. I would experiment with all kinds of stuff. But that's also why, as I sit here and talk to you today, I still have my bag of algo because I'm like, okay, look, if Web3 is going to be a thing, like if using crypto rails is going to be a thing, like this chain still works. You know what I mean? Like a lot of other projects are gone or they're games or whatever, but like the chain still works. So that's not a promise that the whole world's going to adopt it, but like it still works great. So it's like one of those things that, like, if we stop doing all the goofball stuff, businesses and real enterprises want to have a working public blockchain. Algorand's on the short list. You know what I'm saying? Like they're for sure on the short list.
Mhm.
And I don't see why I should dump my bags now. Because by the way, the
Right.
tokenomics used to be the only criticism of it, but like now it's worked out in our favor where we got a really hard cap supply. And so it's like, all we need is adoption. You know what I mean? All we need is real world, like institutional adoption too. I don't care if the weirdos on Twitter don't like it. I really don't. You know what I mean? If we're doing large amounts of transactions and data transfers every single day, every single minute, then there's going to be demand for the token. So that's how I look at it. And that's why, sometimes you're married to your bags. You don't love them as much as you used to, right? That's how life is sometimes. but I will say that, I'm not selling my algo bags anytime soon.
That's awesome. Well, you interact with a lot of other crypto influencers, and I know you mentioned AJ, and I know AJ is a huge Algorand fan. That's kind of how I got connected with him. Been on his show a couple times. He came on here once too. But what about some of the other folks? What do you hear from some of the other influencers around Algorand? What's the sentiment there?
So for me personally, like talking to people like Altcoin Daily, like personally hanging out with all these guys, right? Because I used to, that was the other thing I used to do. So I used to travel around and go to the conferences, speak on panels, perform sometimes, that kind of stuff. So yes, I do know a lot of the other bigger influencers, whatnot. And I personally tell them about it. And usually the answer is they just haven't tried it yet. Usually.
Oh,
Because if you had, after comparing it to ETH and all the other, all the ones that fail, Solana failed transactions, and all the little things. Like this is one little nuanced thing I never hear anybody say because it's like in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important. But like I was staking my Solana, okay? But when you go to unstake your Solana, if you have all of your Solana staked, you can't get it out because you need a little bit for a transaction fee, right? So just like Silvio McCallie thought of every little thing. Like when you go to stake your Algorand, you can't, they always automatically leave a little bit in there. I think XRP does that too, right? So you can always transact. And there's like little shit like that. Like other blockchains, y'all just didn't think about that shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no,
I'm like, we don't need to be waiting for some new technology to be invented. Like it's already here. You know, it's like when ETH became proof of stake, I'm like, wow, they came all the way up to the back of the line of all the proof of stake protocols. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand. Like, if that's what you wanted to be proof of stake, then there's a million other better options, you know? So it, to me, is like the other influencers just probably haven't tried it yet. They haven't used it yet, you know? And if you're only going by price action, okay, well, price action is price action, man. I don't know what to tell you, you know? Price is price. You know, if you think that price action is connected to fundamentals, I got a bridge to sell you. And that's, by the way, I had a long discussion on with my private group with a guy about it. That's actually true in TradFi as well. Like, I'm sorry, but like GameStop wouldn't be a thing if you know what I'm saying? Like if fundamentals mattered. So this is why I'm always like, okay, I mean, obviously for long-term holds, I want good fundamentals and good tokenomics, right? You can't hold something that has bad inflation, right? That you just can't do that.